Tell you what, though, speaking of unsportsmanlike, let's talk about the reaction to this game a little bit, because, like, yikes. Welcome to the Jungle, Bengals fans. I'm Kyle Phelps, and
I'm back!
I know taking a trip in the middle of a playoff run probably isn't the most conducive thing in the world, but, you know, deal with it. I know the video is probably a little bit late this week, just because I just got back yesterday, and, you know, putting everything together is just, you know, sorry it's late, but we'll be back to normal next week. Anyway, I'd like to address a question that I asked in the beginning of the last video that I put out. The Bengals won, right? You're damn right the Bengals won, and oh boy did they win. They might have had the best win of the season, quite frankly. But before we jump into breaking down that game and the aftermath and, you know, everything that's situated with that, I'd just like to ask that you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. It really helps my channel out, and it helps you know when I drop all of my content. Who they think gonna beat them Bengals? Nobody! Let's go, man. I love it. To be clear, this definitely was not the most efficient game I've ever seen from the Bengals. You know, Joe Burrow had a 101.9 quarterback rating, which was great, but he also missed some key throws and one particular touchdown to Hayden Hurst. Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine, they led a running game that averaged 5.1 yards per carry, but they also were totally silent on a handful of drives. The defense allowed 3 points in the second half, the entire second half, again. But they also got bailed out by a few poor throws by Josh Allen and Sean McDermott choosing to go for it on 4th and 6th instead of taking the points at that point. So look, I want to be clear, the Bengals deserve a ton of praise for the way they overall dominated that game from start to finish. But I think it's also worth pointing out that it wasn't a perfect performance, and they're going to need to bust their asses in practice this week if they want to keep up with the Chiefs in Burrowhead on Sunday in the AFC Championship. That said, the final score of this game really should have been 31-10. I mean, come on, you're telling me that this stupidly overturned touchdown reception by Jamar Chase is not a catch? You've got to be out of your mind. I know this picture doesn't show that he bobbled the ball a little bit after this picture when he was going down to the ground, but at this point he had clear control and possession of the ball with both feet in bounds. After all, the NFL rulebook does state that movement of the ball does not automatically result in loss of control. He never lost control of that ball. He had full and complete control of this ball when the picture was taken, and therefore, it should be ruled a touchdown, and anything else that happens after this exact point in time should just be ruled dead. Nothing happens. It's like when players go to, you know, like, extend to try to just barely cross the goal line. Once the ball touches the point where it grazes across the goal line, the play's dead. It's a touchdown. Nothing else matters. Even if they, like, go to the ground and kind of wobbles on the ground a little bit, it doesn't matter because that's a touchdown, and then the play is over once it's a touchdown. The other thing that infuriates me about this reversal is that it was in fact ruled a completion on the field. So I get the argument that it could be interpreted as a bit ambiguous, so you could really argue either way on this call, and fair enough, I get that. But that's not how reviews work. You don't have clear evidence, so you're supposed to stick with the call on the field. Like, by the way, I know this sounds unsportsmanlike for me complaining about a reverse touchdown in a game that ended up being a blowout anyway, but it's not about that for me. It's about just not glossing over bad calls just because my team won, you know? The NFL referees need to do a better job 100% of the time, not just the times when it controls the outcome of a game. Tell you what, though, speaking of unsportsmanlike, let's talk about the reaction to this game a little bit, because, like, yikes. I'm all for talking shit and everything, everybody, right? I do it every day on this channel. But at the same time, some of the aftermath that I've seen has been weirder than Josh Allen trying to flip that ball to Devin Singletary. By the way, that should have been ruled a fumble, so that's another thing that the refs kind of screwed up in this game. But anyway, Stefon Diggs. So, screaming at his teammates on the sidelines, going on rants on Twitter after the game and throwing his whole team under the bus. Like, I get it. He's an emotional guy. He was emotional after the loss and everything like that. But acting like this is exactly what led to him desperately trying to get out of Minnesota when he got traded. My perspective on this one really is the Bills kind of got what they asked for with Stefon Diggs. They traded for him knowing that he's like this, and if he ends up giving on this team just like he gave up on the Vikings, then just remember that he's just a competitor. The other somewhat unsportsmanlike reaction I saw to this game that I want to talk about a little bit is Eli Apple. First of all, y'all know how I feel about that man. I hated on this dude constantly to hell and back last year, and he proved me wrong so many times that I had to do it. I made my apologies to Eli Apple, and now he's one of my favorite players on the team. I love the fact that he jaws constantly, man. It's fun, and it's fun because he backs it up. I mean, not 100% of the time, right? I mean, he's a cornerback, and the cornerback position is one where you're naturally going to lose like 90% of your reps, but he's always coming through with these big clutch plays, and, you know, in these big, huge situations in games. So I'm all down with the talk when he does that, honestly. That said, he definitely, I think, treaded the line a little bit too much on being too much after this game. He responded to Stefon Diggs' rant that I just talked about, saying, Cancun on 3, and then he did, this emoji, with the arms and everything like that. And as you can imagine, as I'm sure you just kind of thought after seeing me do that, every raw Bills fan on the planet immediately took that personally and started assuming he was trying to make fun of Damar Hamlin, which that's not what he was doing, y'all. And I get it. Maybe he could have phrased it a little bit more differently. Maybe he could have had a bit more sense than to use the emoji that is pretty much just Damar Hamlin's whole thing that they've been showing on TV for a while at this point, right? So I get it. It was pretty tone deaf, and he probably could have done that a little bit differently. But he also came out and said afterwards that his intention was not to make fun of Damar, and honestly, you can tell it's not, I mean, yeah, it was kind of a dumb thing to say, but that's not what he was doing. He was making fun of the Bills for losing, which is that's just normal trash talk, right? He said Cancun on 3, which that you're in a huddle. You're like, all right, Cancun on 3, because they lost, and now time to go to Cancun, because we're going to Kansas City. Look, the thing is, Eli Apple has a history of talking trash and saying really, mean things and stuff like that. But he doesn't have a history of being evil, Like, he's not going to make fun of Damar Hamlin for almost dying. These dudes in the NFL, they're all brothers. He's not going to do something like that. So, personally, I think people read way too much into that particular comment, but I also do think that Eli probably could have phrased that differently and just not accidentally evoke that comparison. Like, I do think he can probably do better. Anyway, Bills and Bengals fans seem to be at each other's throats after this game, and it's like, I get it, man. We Bengals fans get super pissy after losses too, especially these big, huge losses like in the playoffs, and the Bills are probably tired of losing in the divisional round at this point. So I still got love for Bills Mafia, right? Personally, I'm rooting for them to go get their ring, after we get ours, right? But y'all can have your turn next. That's what I'm saying. But let me know what you guys thought about this game. Were you blown away by the Bengals' performance? Or do you think, like me, that it was a great performance, really encouraging, but at the same time, they just can't get complacent because there were a couple concerning things that we saw? Let me know in the comments below, and I will feature the best ones in my next video, like this one from Majestic YT, who said on my power rankings video that I did last, Kyle, to be honest, Dolphins should be at that top spot because they lost by 1 point to the Bills, and the Chargers should be second to last after Tampa because they lost a 27-0 lead, but that's my opinion. And I'm bringing this one up, by the way, because I don't think I'll be doing a power rankings video with only 4 teams left. It just, at that point, it's just a preview of what's coming up, right? So the Dolphins, I don't know about the Dolphins, man. I've been saying this for a while that I'm a little skeptical about what I've seen from the Bills. They haven't been that real juggernaut, world-beating team that everybody kind of acts like they are lately. So I just felt like the Ravens playing the Bengals close was a little bit more impressive than the Dolphins playing the Bills close. Anyway, like I said, that's all I got this week, y'all. The Bengals are on to the AFC Championship in back-to-back years for the first time in team history, and I am so ready to see them beat the Chiefs again. Oh, man, 4-0 has a nice ring to it, right? But until then, y'all can always catch more of what I do at KylePhelps92 on Twitter, Facebook.com/ThePhelps, Butt Fumble Sports, the Battle of Ohio podcast, which is now on the Spot Pod Podcast Network. And it has its own YouTube channel, and right here if you subscribe. Like I said, that's all I got this week, y'all. I'll leave y'all, as always, with a hootie!